In a special episode of The Pour Over today, we're explaining the debate about gun control, including where VP Harris and former President Trump stand. This is the 9th episode of our election collection, designed to help us grow in understanding and compassion on key 2024 election topics. An increase in gun deaths and active shooter incidents has kept gun control a frequent and fierce topic of debate in American politics for years. Let's start with the laws. The Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution protects an individual's right to keep and bear arms. The Supreme Court has ruled that this right, first, is not limited to military service members and veterans. Second, can be lawfully exercised for purposes like self-defense in the home. And third, generally applies in public spaces. Other gun laws vary by state. These include restrictions on who is allowed to buy a gun, for example, felons or people diagnosed with a mental illness, the process for purchasing a gun, for example, background checks, waiting periods, and where guns are allowed, for example, schools and bars. The gun death rate, which includes suicides, homicides, action by law enforcement, and accidents, is higher in the U.S. than other developed nations, but is far below the rates in several Latin American countries. By some measures, guns surpassed motor vehicles as the leading cause of death among children in the U.S. Here are some key terms that come up a lot when discussing gun control. Automatic weapons, also called machine guns. These fire bullets continuously as long as the trigger is pulled. It is illegal to possess a newly manufactured machine gun, but there is a process to legally obtain an automatic firearm made prior to May 19, 1986. Semi-automatic weapons. These fire one bullet each time the trigger is pulled and then automatically load a new bullet. It is illegal to sell, manufacture, or transfer these weapons in 10 states. AR-15. The Armalite Rifle 15 is a specific and popular semi-automatic rifle. Originally designed for military use in the 1950s, it can be used for hunting, target shooting, and competition. Assault weapons. This is a common term with no clear, consistent definition, though it generally refers to semi-automatic weapons originally designed for military use. Bump stocks. An accessory to semi-automatic weapons that use a gun's natural recoil to bump the trigger against the shooter's finger, allowing the weapon to fire more rapidly, 400 to 800 rounds per minute, near the rate of an automatic weapon. The Supreme Court ruled in June 2024 that these do not qualify as machine guns and are legal after an attempt by the Trump administration to ban them. Background checks. Since 1994, federal law has required licensed firearm dealers to confirm the buyer is legally allowed to own a gun. This law does not apply to private gun sales or gun shows, an organized gathering of private gun sellers. 22 states and D.C. require background checks for some or all private sales. Red flag laws. Also known as Extreme Risk Protection Orders, ERPOs, these laws allow law enforcement, family members, or medical professionals to petition courts to remove guns from those who pose a credible risk to themselves or others. These laws exist in some form in 21 states and D.C. We'll be back with what Republicans and Democrats say about gun control after a quick break. Ever get stuck wondering how to study a Bible passage? The Courage for Life Study Bibles for women and for men have 1,464 Bible studies. That's a Bible study on every page of Bible text. In the Accurate New Living Translation, these Bibles offer a pathway to transformation as you grow in your understanding of God and of your role in His story. While the Courage for Life Study Bibles for women and for men have unique aspects, they have a lot of similar content too, so they're easy to use in small groups, couples devotionals, Sunday school classes, and more. Courage for Life Study Bibles provide a discipleship pathway never before seen in a Bible. Plus, you'll get access to the Filament Bible app to dive even deeper. Just scan the page number to open a world of resources, including over 25,000 additional study notes, hundreds of videos, and a full audio Bible. Start discovering the Courage for Life Study Bible at the link in today's show notes. Republicans generally favor placing fewer restrictions on gun ownership. They view gun ownership as an important check on government overreach and a tool for self-defense, arguing that criminals are deterred when law-abiding citizens are also armed. Republicans generally criticize gun regulation, arguing that it will only harm law-abiding citizens because criminals will disregard the laws, and advocate for protecting vulnerable places like schools by increasing security, not regulating guns. Democrats generally believe limiting gun access is the best way to reduce gun violence. They argue current regulation is insufficient because it was instituted before semi-automatic weapons were widely available, and that gun ownership no longer deters government overreach because the military owns vastly more sophisticated weapons than private citizens. They generally support making it more difficult to purchase guns and easier to confiscate guns if there is cause for concern. There is some common ground. First, 81% support prohibiting a person from having a gun while they're under a restraining order. Second, 76% support allowing courts to temporarily remove guns from individuals whose relatives report a risk of harm. And third, 72% support requiring gun owners to lock up firearms when not in use. The gun control debate is largely fueled by fear for the safety of loved ones. When you engage with your neighbors, remember to listen for that fear and reflect hope, because the gospel delivers courage better than any firearm or firearm policy could. Isaiah 41, verse 10 says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will hold on to you with my righteous right hand." And now, candidate stances. Vice President Harris supports universal background checks and a ban on assault weapons. She oversees the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention, which focuses on helping states pass and implement red flag laws, and provides $750 million in funding from the Justice Department for crisis intervention programs. Former President Trump has promised no one will lay a finger on your firearms. He vowed to reverse every single Biden attack on gun owners and manufacturers, and to appoint federal judges who oppose new firearm limits. He supports common-sense school safety measures and says gun violence is a mental health, social, cultural, and spiritual problem, not a gun problem. That's all we have for today. Thanks for listening. If you're listening on the Apple Podcasts app, give us a 5-star rating and drop a review. If you're listening on Spotify, give us a follow and hit the notification bell to never miss a new episode. We appreciate your support and hope you have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow with the regular news.
Real Christians with remarkable stories. Compelled Podcast uses gripping, immersive storytelling to bring Christian testimonies to life. Take Alex Senjamana, who grew up surrounded by racial tension and anger in Rwanda, was forced to flee for his life at 5 years old, and then was challenged by the gospel of Jesus to forgive the unforgivable. Listen to Alex's entire story on the Compelled Podcast. He's on episode number 82, which is titled Rwandan Genocide Survivor in Search of a Savior. Listen on your podcast app or at compelledpodcast.com, or find the link in our show notes.